Sundays, you know, we do not read from Alone Book One, Growing Up in Alexandra. Instead, on Sunday, I am dedicating my time to wearing one of my other hats. You know, I'm a memorist, author. I'm also a life coach, and I'm also a teacher. I have a platform on Patreon where I do a lot of my teachings. So if you're interested in going deep and diving deep and understanding some of the subjects that I teach, I highly, highly recommend that you join me on Patreon. But since I am here on YouTube as well, I'm going to be bringing some of those teachings, some of those coaching notes, and some of the stuff I know so that you get acquainted, you know, before you join and deep dive on Patreon. But give it a try, you know, give it a try. There is a lot of content there. So on Sundays, I'll be bringing that. I'll be wearing the hat of a life coach and the hat of a teacher, and then we can engage. However, I will not be able to answer deep questions here on this platform. If you have deeper questions or if you want to go further, if you want some coaching, yeah, just hit me, go on Patreon. That's where everything happens. That's where the deep dive happens. That's where the stretching happens. So for today, I wanted to just continue on a theme that you guys loved so much. Thank you for the validation. And I say this because a lot of you came on my WhatsApp, on my DMs on social media saying, yo, that mother wound teaching, it caused me to pause. And for me, it's like, okay, let me see if I can deepen it. And once again, deeper, deeper, deeper is on Patreon. But for here, let me just stretch you a little bit. The name of my school is Stretch, actually, Stretch School of Life. Let's stretch a little bit and get into some of the things that mother wound touches on. And as I was planning this and I was thinking about this teaching, it is very difficult to take a teaching such as a mother wound, which is a vast, vast teaching, and try and cram it into a 15, maybe 20 minutes, 15-minute teaching. And so the best way to do that is to give you some bite sizes, particularly here on YouTube. And so today I thought maybe let's talk about the kinds of mothers that causes a mother wound. Now, if you want to start from the beginning with me, please go to that video that I did on the mother wound. Yeah, the poster is somewhere here on this video. Listen to that first, and then you can come here. But just to recap, on that video, I spoke about two ways that you get a mother wound. So the other one is ancestral. It's also karmic. It is past life related, and it comes through what? Your pregnancy. It comes through pregnancy. So there are things that your mother has never ever dealt with. Your mother decided to shelve them, and they get passed on to you through pregnancy. And they show up as a pattern. They show up in the patterns of your life, you know, the way you deal with money, the way you deal with relationships, the way you deal with other women, the way you deal with work, you know, some of the things that you cannot quite explain about yourself, you find that it is a mother wound that you got through her during pregnancy, either during the things she was going through in pregnancy or the deeper things that are ancestral that her own mother and her mother's mother did not deal with. So that's one aspect. And of course, the deep dive can happen on Patreon, not here. And then there's another way you get a mother wound, which is the enacted ways. In other words, how your mother was to you, literally, how you interacted with her, how you saw her, how she saw you, your whole dynamic and your whole dance with your mother may have caused a mother wound. Are you with me so far? Are you stretching a little bit? Okay, so perhaps for today, let's start with unavailable mothers. You know, there are different types of mothers. There's the unavailable mother, there is the unmothered mother, there is the ambivalent mother, there is a collapsed mother, there is a child mother, you know, which ties in with the unmothered mother. There are very different types of mothers that we get in this world, and we get them for various reasons. And you get the mother you need for this lifetime, for you to reach the next level of your evolution in this life that you are in. So I want you to have that in mind when you think of your mother, that it is not that you got a bad deal. It is the mother that you need for your next level of evolution. You know, I always talk about how my mom was quintessentially a nurturer and a feeder, but my mom was not a disciplinarian. My mother was not necessarily a teacher. It was my grandmother who was a teaching mother. My mother was a teacher in her own way, in other ways, but not to us necessarily. And so when I talk about those types of mothers in this series. I'm not going to cover them all in this video. In this video specifically, I want to just introduce you to the kinds or the types of unavailable mothers. Okay. So unavailability, if you think of unavailability, what does it mean? It means missing in action. This person is unavailable. And unavailability can mean physically unavailable. You know, we are South Africans and people of my generation, you know, I like to talk about my age. I was born in 1976 and I was born in a township. So my mother was very much available in terms of physicality, and I saw her every day. I had the pleasure of sleeping every night with my mom in the same house, the pleasure of sitting and eating with my mom every night and seeing her as often as possible. So my mom in that aspect was available. I did not have an unavailable mother. But being South African, a lot of people, a lot of women my generation and slightly older, and maybe even younger, you know, you never know, have had a case of unavailable mothers in a sense that a lot of our mothers had to leave us with grandmothers or leave us in the villages to go and work in the kitchens in the white suburbs of white homes of white women of South Africa, abandoning not by gates. I mean, we come from a system that we all know, we come from an apartheid system where the mother and the father had to flee, had to leave, not flee, had to leave, you know, our homes in the villages, in rural areas, in small towns, and come to the big cities to go and work in order to feed us. So as a trade of feeding you, they then become what? Unavailable, leaving us to be raised by grandparents. If you're lucky, if you're a good grandmother, you know, good for you, because grandmother is mother times two. We'll talk about grandmothers some other times because they play such a crucial role in who you are and who you become. And so a lot of South African women, my generation and older, have had a case of "Akagodisa ke mamaka." I have not been raised by my mom. So the mom was quintessentially unavailable, right? So that's type one, physically unavailable. And then you get a mother who is physically available like mine, but she is nowhere to be found. She's missing in action. And that shows up in many, many forms. I had a client whose mother and father for that matter were pastor and Mamuruti, Murutili Mamuruti. And in as much as they were there for the community and they were building a church and they were doing good in the world or in the community and society, but they were unavailable for the children. So I don't know if you know anything about Life Mamuruti, but this is a woman who is so busy with everything else, including tending to the pastor. Nothing wrong, just facts, you know. And you find that they're not really there and they're not available for their own children. In fact, as I'm talking here, another friend of mine comes to mind whose mother was a pastor. And one of her deepest issues is that, you know, mama nasiteng, you know, and it creates a bitterness of some sort because you see her physically, she's there, but she's not there for you. If there is no other women in the house crying and singing and praying for this and this and the other, she's out in other houses and churches preaching, praying, this and this and the other. And if she is in the house and it so happens to be that rare day where there's no one else needing your mother, she is fast asleep and she's tired, rightfully so. So some people got those mothers who were unavailable in that sense, right? So that's unavailability number two, where she's available for everyone else in the community except for you, the children. So if you identify with that, it would be interesting to hear your story. Again, if it's too deep and too sensitive, join me on Patreon so we can talk about it there. Unavailability number three, which is more modern, but you know, it's still unavailable nonetheless, is a busy mother. You know, nurses are just such unavailable mothers in their own way, especially when okay, maybe not, let me not go there. I wanted to go into that space where nurses were needed all over the world, in the UK, in the US, and a lot of nurse mothers, I might as well go there. A lot of nurse mothers had to leave South Africa for better pastures and, you know, to make money. Yes, financially they will provide. So essentially the mothers then become their providers, which is a masculine trait. So while she can give you everything you need and pay for your fees and pay for your varsities and really bring you everything you require, she is missing in action. Instead, a masculine energy and a masculine figurish replaces the mother. And while you, as a child, as a daughter or son, you need mama, you know. So busy mothers, so nurses tend to be those unavailable because they're busy. And also their schedule, the shift, sometimes you're night shift, sometimes you're day shift. So there's an instability of some sort that is created in your mother-child relationship, not the home. I mean, the home might run well, things are paid, things are sorted, but the mother is missing in action. Are you with me? Another busy mother is the executive mothers, mothers who become executives, who become CEOs, mothers who become entrepreneurs. I'm thinking of my mothering as well, to my children. Much as physically I was there and I was an active mom who dropped children at school, pick them up, make sure that on weekends we have something. I mean, I had money in my young mother days. In my 20s, I had a lot of money, meaning I would take my kids out quite often. And it's almost like I knew innately that I needed to do that, because I needed to bridge the gap of the fact that during the week, much as I'm with them in the car, driving them to school, picking them up, cooking for them, I felt like I was absent in other ways that mattered. And I mean, if you ask my children, they will say, no, I was actually quite available. But when I think of it now, I feel like I wasn't quite as available as I needed to be. And then it's combining with the fact that my entrepreneurial activities were unstable, got to a point where they were unstable financially, that I feel like I disrupted their childhood in that there was a time where I couldn't provide for almost anything when we moved back home. Remember, if you don't know that and you bumped into this video for the first time, just scroll down. There's a few videos around me as an entrepreneur. And one of the things I regret as a mother was um, the destabilization that being an entrepreneur caused financially in my children's life. I think for me, I could take it, but in my children's life. But I mean, they argue differently, and I'm that mother that can take the feedback where I'm like, so um, do you think I was there for you in your teen years and all that? I do that with children. And if you want to improve yourself as a mom, or if you suspect you're an unavailable mother, do that like gently and kindly to yourself, of course. Just try and ask your children how they feel and if you are there indeed for them or not. So I digressed a bit, but I think it was a good digress. So that's an availability number three, a busy mother. There's and a busy because they're trying to bring in what resources into the house. It's not like the pastor mother or the community leader mother or the church goer mother who's available for everybody else except for us. So that's a different type of business. Are you with me? The working one and the one who's in taking care of the whole world. And then there's a deeper layer of unavailability, which includes emotional unavailability, where you just feel like your mom is cold to you. Your mother is not approachable. Your mother ki chobolo. Your mother ki ntwa dumela. You cannot. She's like she's swollen. It's like you can't touch her. If you touch her, she screams or she shouts or she beats you up. I mean, that's not necessarily unavailable. It falls into it creates a wounded child. Anyway, see, I'm mixing my issues, but they are all intertwined, these topics. A mother wound topic is directly linked to an inner child topic. So that's why I am mixing them. But what I'm trying to say is that the mother who is angry, is unavailable emotionally, is not only unavailable, but it's also an angry mother, an unmothered mother in a way, which we'll get to next Sunday when we get deeper into other types of mothers. So we're still stacking with the unavailable mother, but emotionally unavailable mothers, where you can't access her emotionally, where she feels very, very cold, where she can't talk to you about anything except for the business of the day. Did you go to school? And full stop. No hugs, no kisses, no warmth, no care, no visible care. If anything, the more you show care or the more you need that care, the further she disappears from you, the more she closes you off. Yeah, so the emotionally unavailable mother also shows up as a spaced out mother, who just does not want to be bothered by you. I'm one of I think in the last video, really, I read about how my mother was always had a distant look, Every time I would catch her like looking out in space, staring into space. And it's like you've just disturbed a whole daydreamer, a whole thought process. Some mothers are like that, where they're just always staring into blank spaces, and that's almost psychologically unavailable, because they're dealing with their own things. And usually those have been unmothered mothers. We'll get into unmothered mother next week. So those are like the three types of unavailable mothers. You'd have to share your story for us to dissect into others, because I'm trying to be as generic as possible here to incorporate. But just to recap, unavailable mom is unavailable literally physically. I'm not available because I'm not there. I made that example of your mother working somewhere else in the city and you are left in a small town or in a rural area. An unavailable mother because she's busy with all sorts of things, community service, churching, taking care of the church, taking care of everyone else except for the children. Also politicking mothers, if you think of Mama Winnie Mandela, we actually called her Mother of the Nation. She was our mother. She was Mother of the Nation. But I'm wondering if Zinzi and Zanani had a mother while we had her as the mother of the nation. So politics, church, community can take the mother away from you. And that creates a different, interesting wound for the child in that the mother is available. She's here, she's available, but not for me. And then you get a mother who's not available because she's busy fending for you. So I'm going to be looking for food, sustenance, money, and therefore it's a trade. It's either I'm making money or I'm there for you. Fair trades, I mean, very, very fair things, And then you get an emotionally stroke, psychologically unavailable mom who tends to be very, very cold or very, very angry somehow. And there are subsets, you find a combination of two where she's both physically unavailable and emotionally unavailable and. So once again, it would make this a bit richer if you engage, particularly on Patreon or even here on YouTube, and then you share your mother stories and we can see, how far we stretch with this. So today I wanted to touch on the unavailable mothers. Next Sunday, I will touch on the different types of mother, that create a mother wound, and how to heal that mother wound. That is exclusively for the Patreon for the Patreon students, because it's really, really quite involved. So if you like what you're hearing, head over to Patreon and let's meet you there. But I'll see you next week. And this is my story. I cannot wait to hear yours.